Have you come across men and women who buy into the Venus and Mars argument in regards to gender? And if so, what are any reactions to that? What do you feel about that whole?
Well, I think the Mars and Venus model, that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, is the fallback position, the dominant fallback position in American culture. Most Americans believe that women and men are so fundamentally different that we might as well be from different planets. And that any communication between women and men is an event of intergalactic proportion. But here's the thing that is interesting to me. At what has been, and this is what I would say to the students, at PLU, what has been the most successful educational reform of the entire 20th century? Coeducation. And 150 years ago, in the 19th century, most boys and girls were educated separately. Not anymore. Why is that? Because what coeducation assumes is you can sit in the same class, listen to the same lecture, read the same book, take the same test, be graded by the same criteria. And nobody ever goes to the dean of students and says, well, I'm a Martian and my professor's a Venusian, so don't I get extra credit or a translator? Nobody says this. The reason is because in our day-to-day lives, the truth is men and women are far more similar than they are different. Men and women are far more similar on every single measurable behavior, attitude, and trait. So in the social sciences, we always talk about the distributions and how similar they are. That you might have some small mean differences, but the distributions, the story is really how different men are from one another, how different women are from one another. But women and men as groups, really rather similar. Now, the argument that I make politically is not only is this true in terms of behavior, attitudes, and traits, but it's true politically. That the interests of men and the interests of women are more similar than they are different. There's no war between the sexes, no battle of the sexes. In fact, men and women can and must be allies if women and men are going to live the lives we say we want to live. So it's going to be better for our relationships with other men, better for our relationships with women, better for our relationships with our children. So that gender equality is not a zero-sum game if women win, men lose, but rather it's a win-win. And that's the argument that I make in the lectures that I give on college campuses.
Throughout the process of writing, researching, and specifically interviewing for Guyland, was there anything in going through the interview process with guys for Guyland that really surprised you? Any themes that constantly cropped up?
Absolutely. It's a long-running argument and conversation that I've had with Michael Kaufman for 15 years. Michael insisted for 15 years that contrary to the Mars and Venus argument, contrary to the argument that men and women are different, there's a corollary to that politically. You can never reach men. Men don't want to go do this sort of stuff. They're going to resist it. They resist equality. They don't want to change. They'll never change. This is whether it's biological or in their interests, whatever. And Michael kept saying, through his work on the White Ribbon Campaign, I don't buy that. I really think men are hungry for it. They're desperate for it. We have to give them permission. I did not agree with him. I heard all the resistance. I get the emails from the men's rights guys all the time, yelling at me, screaming at me, threatening me, whatever. I keep thinking, no, they don't want to change. He was right. Every single place I went, these guys were basically saying, I don't like having to do this stuff. I want an alternative. I need support to step up and do the right thing. I was so surprised at, and it made me far more compassionate to the guys themselves. Rather than just be critical, I really began to differentiate between the guys and the ideology of guyness. The guys themselves most guys are really trying to do the right thing. They have no support. They don't feel like they have any place to go. Then they do it all by themselves. And they barely can even talk to their very, very, very best friend about it. Because they're and the thing that tipped me off, the tipping point, so that was a real surprise. The guys really don't like all this stuff. And here was the thing that began the first hint. You know what the most common question I am asked by women on college campuses is? It's this. My boyfriend, when I'm with him by myself, he is so nice. He's so sensitive. He's really caring. He really listens to me. He's a really great guy. And I have guy friends, they say, who really listen and they really care about me. But then when they're with a group of other guys, they turn into complete jerks. So their question, these women's question is, what's up with guys in groups? And so for me, what Guyland is really about is what are the dynamics of masculinity for these guys in groups that shut them down, that suppress their natural inclination toward doing the right thing. And that was a surprise to me.
In leadership roles, what can men learn from women and women learn from men?
Well, there's a really interesting thing. There's an explosion of research and institutions and projects and even universities that are devoted to leadership. And most of these, when they do gender in leadership or women's leadership, they basically teach women to act like men. Men don't have to act like men. Men are naturally, biologically, it's in our DNA to be leaders. And frankly, I think what men can learn from women is how not to be a leader. I think to be an effective leader, you have to have first been a follower. To be an effective leader, you have to know what it's like to be led. Because you can watch people make mistakes, you can watch people lead you badly. Just as if you're an athlete, for example, every coach is different. And you have to learn how to play with jerky coaches, with bad coaches, because that's the only way you'll get to appreciate good coaches. So what women can learn from men is, and men can learn from women, is that people bring different skills to leadership. And sometimes we gender code them. But it's certainly not true that all women are team builders and all men are go-it-alone types. I mean, just look at the women who are running for office in California. Carly Fiorina got fired from HP because she wasn't a team builder, right? I mean, so these people are not, it's not in their DNA. It's in the circumstances of it. Now, it is true that because we separate women and men, because we have an ideology that masculinity and femininity are different, women develop different skills than men. Good leaders have to embody both of them. They have to empower people. I mean, good leaders don't lead. They empower people to work together. And I think the organizations, the really visionary organizations of the 21st century, recognize this. And some people even say they have more feminine qualities. Nonsense. They have more human qualities. Because of this ideology, we ask men to suppress half their humanness, and we ask women to suppress half of it. Well, for 40 years, women have said, you know what, suppressing half our humanity is a bad idea. Let's be whole people. And men have said, no, suppressing half of our humanity is a good plan. We like that. So now, finally, men are saying, well, maybe we might not want to suppress half our humanity.